So, Thomas, thanks for letting me pick your brain a bit about how public history, a textbook of practice, works with graduate training and works in the real world. And now I want to push it a little further and ask a very particular question about the last section, where I think you've done a lot of work and practice here in Luxembourg. But one of the features of the book that I like is that it emphasizes making public history in a variety of contexts. So if you could briefly tell us about one of the contexts in which you've made public history, which is working with a local community in Esch-Sur-Alzette to think about its own past and to create a mural for that community, which I think is an especially innovative approach to both working with the public, but to communicating public as well, communicating a historical story as well.
Yes, as you say, it's about, well, it's both about communicating history and making history more inclusive and participatory. The initial idea was to create a framework for historians and artists to work together. It's been done sometimes, it's not new, but I think that artists are sometimes better at representing emotions than historians are, because the whole concept of emotions in historical narrative has been debated. So I wanted to create this framework in which historians and artists can talk and work together to represent the past. So we decided with local actors to work with one neighborhood and to try to represent the history of that neighborhood with the local resident on a wall. So the starting point was a wall, and how do we represent together the history of that neighborhood? So we worked with an artist from Portugal who came for that project in Esch-Sur-Alzette, so the southern part of Luxembourg. And we've tried to make it as participatory as possible. So we had a social media collect of family pictures about the neighborhood. We also created what we call the CHIC, the Citizen Historian Circle, in which volunteers, people who had been living in that neighborhood for a long time, so experts, told us what could be the keywords, the main aspect of their neighborhood. So they had to come up with 6, 7, 8 keywords that are symbolizing the neighborhood. With those keywords, we organized workshops in which a broader public from the whole neighborhood came according to the tables, and the tables were reproducing the keywords. So we had a table about, for example, the rural part of the neighborhood. We had a table about the industrial part. So we had this discussion, and people brought object, testimony, stories about those concepts. Then we had a walking tour in which the artist walked into the street and people stopped and say, well, this happened here, or this was here. For example, there used to be an airport in this small neighborhood, and the artist was stopped by people who told her about, oh, there was this airport, there was a direct connection between London and Esch. Can you imagine that? So it was a memory tour, and the artist got inspired, collected pictures, stories, objects about the neighborhood. The artist then proposed 6 sketches, and that was the artistic representation. She made sense to the memories, to the sources, to the stories into 6 possible stories. And the people decided. We had a public vote, we're knocking on doors, and we're with this ballot in front of the wall for people to choose one of the 6 sketches. And it was funny that the sketches that I wanted to have was not selected. So my voice was not more important than others. I lost, but was very happy with the participatory aspect, because that's what mattered. People chose another fresco, another design that the artist came by and painted on the wall. And in between, people were also commenting, oh, you could do this, you could do that. And the sketches grew in the few weeks between the vote and the painting. And what is also amazing is that the wall painting is still there and will still be there. And people came for the opening, and you had parents telling their kids that, oh, this part of the fresco I was responsible for because I gave the picture that inspired that fresco. And you can see the participation in the fresco, because part of the fresco was made from a family picture, other was made from these chic members who said, well, there was the past, rural, and the new neighborhood is about concrete, the modern city, and the artist represented that through black and white and a river in terms of history. So it's amazing to see how the real impact of participation on the artistic representation of the history of the neighborhood.
That's a great story. I have to tell you, I think more historians should do this kind of public artistic interventions in their community to build public history stories. Very inventive. Thank you for sharing that story as well as the others you've shared today.